Well, we made it through the race. We ended up running 2 different classes. We did get some damage, but huge accolades to the people that prepped the track down there, Kevin Hare and his group. I had this perception of what dirt oval kart racing was going to be like, and how the dirt, you see a lot of dirt late model races or sprint car races, and the dirt just kind of gets really kind of chopped up and kind of brutal. And I've been down to dirt kart locally only a couple of times, and it's pretty rough. So I had this perception that the track was going to be a little bit rough towards the end of the day. But my gosh, they did such a phenomenal job prepping that place that you'll see later in the video. The surface was incredible. Like there were a couple little bumps, but it's dirt racing. There's always going to be some bumps, but it was nothing like what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more roughness and a lot more bumpiness, and it was tight little short track racing. It was a small track. We unloaded the cart, and right off the get-go, the first practice out, it was really competitive. The driver was making some mistakes, and even throughout the day, it took me a while to get kind of into a rhythm and get kind of comfortable. Set aside the driver errors, I think that we had a car that was capable of winning both classes that we were in. In fact, we did win our first heat race. We had a couple little issues with the chain that we ended up having to replace. The chain broke again in the stage 2-3 main event, which that's where the engine's built for, so that was where the engine was competitive. But then we go out in the Open Pro, and I knew we were going to be severely outmoded in the Open Pro, but we ended up driving from 10th or 11th at the start all the way to a P3 finish, and it wasn't like a lot of carts fell out. I think everybody finished, and I think there was only one cart that spun that we got past. The rest of them were all quality on-track passes, and other than those guys leaving me a little bit down the straightaway, the cart was a friggin' rocket through the corner. You'll see in the videos later on that the cart was just phenomenal. A couple other things that we did struggle with during the day. On entry, it would cut initially, it would cut okay, but then right that distance, that third of the corner from entry to center, the cart would push quite a bit. And we fought trying to get that out of the cart all day, but once we got back to the throttle, the thing stood up really nice, sat on the right rear, and had a great exit. It had good pull. Our gearing was money. Ran a 1273 sprocket, nailed it, floated the valves right at the end of the straightaway, so I was really happy about that. We were really close. We did try a couple different directions on setup changes. The first thing we did was we made an air pressure adjustment. After the first practice, noticing that it was a little bit snug, but noticing that the majority of it was driver error. And since we only got short practices, I didn't want to go far with it. I felt like the cart was really close. So we made a minor left front and left rear air pressure adjustment. It was extremely cold, 25 degrees all day long. We did prep the tires, as in cleaning them. I have a dirt tire cleaner from All Star from Motor State. And I just mix it with water. We'd spray it on the tires and clean them. We did not reapply prep. I did use the pre-race wipe a couple of times, but we did not reapply prep. It was so cold, my fear was putting prep on really wouldn't do anything, because it's not gonna soak in. It's not gonna dry. It's just gonna sit on the top because it's 25 degrees outside and it's gonna freeze. So I didn't really do a lot of prep at the track other than just cleaning the tires. So I'm here Sunday morning. I wanted to do my post-race stuff on the cart. As you can see, this isn't my normal attire. This is, this is my laid-back wear, and I just wanted to get in here real quick so I can add to the video so that I could go home and start working on chopping up the race to start prepping this video to upload it. Like I said, we did get some damage. It's short track racing. I'm going to give you a quick walk around the cart. As you can see on the right side, not a lot of damage. As you'll see in the videos, that there was a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of door banging. I thought the right side of the cart was going to be a little bit more beat up. There was a berm up by the wall that I tagged a couple of times with my right rear that broke that section of quarter panel off. Sorry, Tyler. Your sticker's still there. It's just not quite as pretty. As we walk around to the front, Being short track racing, I did use the right front a little bit. One thing that we found was that with the stage 2 carts, they tend to get to the center of the corner a little bit better than the open motor carts. The open motor carts would rip down the straightaway, but then they'd kind of park it in the middle, and my momentum through the center was so much greater that I was struggling with my timing to turn underneath of him on exit. So I got into him a few times, knocked a bit of the wrap off the front. It was so cold that when I would hit something, this stuff would fly off. Looks like I hit a canary on the racetrack. So obviously we can just go ahead and rewrap that, which I'm going to do, and just kind of clean it up. The graphics aren't too bad. I can save all that. This sticker's pretty much junk. There's a lot of oil on it. I was racing the Open Pro with a couple of the Yamahas and a couple other 2-strokes, and it got a little bit dirty. It looks like it ran about 500 laps at Bristol. This side, again, a cart spun, and I just tagged him with the nose. But other than that, that's the only real damage on the left side. There's a little crack here where we had some contact. This got shoved in a little bit. But I feel like I didn't get past a whole lot. If I had been getting past a lot, this side may have been used up a little bit more. But for as hardcore as that racing was, and as awesome and as much fun as it was, we held our own out there with these guys that have been doing it a lot longer, and which gives me, I'm pretty happy about that, because I feel like I didn't send you guys in a completely wrong direction. We did learn some stuff, so I'm going to share that with you next. But she got a little bit uglier. We can fix it. Ultimately, man, she ran like a rape date. Here's some interesting information. I was scaling this thing, doing my post race, and you can see here where my tire pressures were at, both without driver and with driver. I didn't take the time to rewrite them because it's the same thing. And here are all my numbers before I made the adjustments. This is exactly how it came off the track. You can see my cross was 47.4, my rear 56.6, the left 59.7. So after I got this the exact way it came off the track, I went ahead and I reset my air pressures back to my starting points, which are the even all the way around, from 19 on the left front. I was trying to deload the car by adding all this left front air pressure and by taking some out of the left rear, and it did. It made a huge difference on cross. So at the 19 left front and 5 left rear, you can see where my cross was 47.4, and then all I did was reset my air pressures to 7 and 7 all the way around, and my cross is now 52.3. So because these things are so light and that cross weight is so sensitive, when you change the left front, when you add 12 pounds to the left front, it took a full 5% of cross out of the cart. I expected to see, obviously, some cross weight drop by putting a bunch of air in that left front, but I did not expect 5%. We did make air pressure adjustments at the track, but when we made the shim adjustment on the front spindles, that was by far more important than the air pressure was. Here are all of our setup notes from this weekend. A couple quick things where we started at here, and you can see where our heights are, the caster, the toe. You can see how our alignment was at. I measured where my backspace was between the wheel and the frame, or where my shims were as far as the front spindles. You can see where all of our heights are at, our shims and our alignment on the rear axle, where our starting air pressures were, the rear stagger, my gearing, where my scale numbers were. I even recorded what my valence height was on all parts of the valence. The left side, the right side, the center was almost 2 inches. My left side skirt, my right side skirt. I do this in my super late models so that I know when I go from race to race, if I keep recording those valence heights, I can plan better when I go to the next track and know that my valence isn't going to hit the ground. From everything that I'd seen this weekend, the valence was really really close. I didn't want the valence to be too low because it's going to start digging up, dirt in the middle of the corner, and it could potentially fracture the nose or knock it loose. Regardless, if it's hitting the ground, it's disturbing the way the car is turning through the center of the corner. So I know it didn't touch. I think we're going to be okay. I think when we go to Spokane next race, because it does tend to get a little bit more rougher, I may raise that a little bit. But at the 2 inches where I was at, the only impact I saw was on this left front corner. We did continually hit those turtle bumps that they put in the middle of the corner. It did tear up this side of the valence, and it knocked the support loose underneath. You can see it from the inside there. It knocked the support loose. But ultimately, the nose, the valence, the under tray there, it all worked great. We never dug in with the valence. There are obviously some marks where I did a little bit of rooting, but I was really happy with that. Next page is just my alignment. I recorded my shims, my axle space. I did have it on this other sheet, but I wanted to record it in a different way so that I could just revert back to it a little bit easier. Here are my changes at the track. You can see here where we made our air pressure adjustments. It did help, but it wasn't enough. We made another air pressure change. It helped again, but it wasn't enough. I did learn that the track was tightening up as the day went on, at least for me. It would turn into the corner. The initial cut was okay, but as you were trying to rely on loading into that right front, it didn't seem like it wanted to work correctly. As we got to the center, it just had way more slip angle. It wasn't working. We tried to jack the air pressure up in the left front to decrease the wedge, and it did work. As I said before, it did help. It was making gains with the air pressure adjustments, but it wasn't making enough. And as the track continued to tighten up, or I don't know if it was maybe I was driving it a little bit differently, trying to get more out of it on entry, but it was not rotating the way that I wanted to. So before the main events, we actually made a chassis adjustment at the spindle there, and we had two shims on top. I had originally had it all the way up, all the way down to get the frame height where I wanted, but I wasn't happy with the cross weight, so I took two shims off the top and I put it on the bottom, effectively lowering that tire and taking cross weight out of it. And then on this side, we took two from the bottom and put them at the top, effectively raising this tire to take cross weight out of it. So here you can see, this is just my overall notes. The left front and left rear air pressures did make a pretty significant change in the cross weight. By adding 12 psi to the left front and 2 psi to the, taking 2 psi out of the left rear, it changed the cross by nearly 5% from 52.3 to 47.4. The front spindle shim change coupled with the air pressure change dropped the cross weight from 56.6 to 47.4 post race, but just the shim change alone made a difference of about 4.3% in cross weight. These are the two differences. This is the air pressure, 4.9. This is the shim change, 4.3, for a total of 9.2% difference on cross weight. That's a pretty significant change, and I think that we could have gone a little bit more, but when I go back, I don't think I'm going to try to do it all with the left front air pressure. I'm going to try to start and keep that left front air pressure down so it's got more side bite and it holds the track a little bit better. When you jack that air pressure up, you stiffen the sidewall of the tire up and it doesn't have any give. By keeping that air pressure where it needs to be, that tire is going to operate better. And if I can get that cross weight down or find another way, maybe some rear end alignment, or there's a couple different things, some nose weight, or a couple different ways to get the car to free up and maintain that usable left front air pressure of around 7 psi, 6, 7, 8 psi, I think we're going to be a lot happier. This is interesting information, and I hope you guys all appreciate that, because it's something that you don't typically see people record, and I thought that was really, really awesome to be able to see that on the scales and know exactly how much it does change. Now that we've gone over what the changes did and how they affected the cart, and I gave you all the data that I said I would share with you guys, a couple other lessons I learned was, one of the major factors that I was having, besides the cart being tight, was inconsistency in my line. I haven't raced dirt oval in 28 years. And even back when I did run dirt oval, it was with my straight rail road course go-kart, and I only ran, I think, 2 or 3 times on dirt. I've never been a real dirt oval guy. I've always been an asphalt guy. So I feel like, I had a little bit of a mulligan there with trying to learn it, learn how the kart reacted, and I was extremely happy with it, but I did make a lot of driver errors. That I can clean up. I need more seat time, but overall, I felt like if I could maintain my line and hit my marks, the kart was really good. When I would get up off of my marks, or when I would miss my entry, I would miss my center cut, the kart was line sensitive, and I would throw 0.2 of a second out the window by missing my entry marks. So being diligent and hitting my marks was definitely the biggest factor of the entire weekend. Another thing that I learned was momentum with a lower horsepower engine is massive. In the Open Pro main, we drove up to third. We were racing against karts with 20, 30 more horsepower than we had. But we were able to pass those karts and drive away from them because they would launch down the straightaway, but then they wouldn't be able to hit their marks on entry, or they would have to slow down so much on entry. They would have the kart so tightened up to try to get off the corner that it wouldn't cut through the center. We were a rocket through the middle because we didn't have that extra horsepower. I had to capitalize on my middle. When you are, and this is even in, asphalt super late models or whatever you're racing, whenever you have a lower horsepower, you've got to focus on your momentum. You've got to keep your momentum up. I've known this, but it really showed this weekend, and you'll see in the GoPro footage how significant that was. By having to overslow the car down, you're forcing the car to have to accelerate harder. Whenever you have to force the car to accelerate harder, you start to run into rear grip issues, and the kart wants to slip the rear tires more. The more momentum you can keep in the center of the corner, the easier it is the car to accelerate off of that. So, like I say, biggest thing is focus on your middle, get your middle right, and drive the kart correctly, and don't rely on your horsepower. If you have the horsepower, awesome. But learn how to use it and maintain the center of the corner, and not try to just use all horsepower and park it in the middle. That's one of the reasons why the nose is so beat up, is just because I had the mid-corner speed, and the speed was so big, the difference in speed was so big that I struggled with timing it correctly to get that inside cut late in the corner to turn underneath somebody, and I caved the nose in 2 separate occasions just because I missed that timing mark, or they decelled more than I had anticipated. But like I say, it's a major factor making that momentum stick with you. Ultimately, we went out with a stage 2 clone motor on a kart it's a 2002 Phantom Banshee, and it's got too much body for the amount of horsepower, and I'm fat. I'm not like some 110-pound kid. And we ran competitive. And I feel like the reason we ran competitive was I over-prepared and over-engineered everything that I was doing, to the point of I knew we weren't going to totally suck, but I did not expect us to be as competitive as we were, just because, it's not something I've done a lot of. But having prepared and gone through every step that we could, and knowing where everything was at, just making sure everything was right and trying to capitalize on every little spot that I could, ultimately it saved me a lot of headache at the racetrack, trying to struggle with the kart and figure out what I've got to do to progress. Weight isn't a deal breaker by any means. Tyler Lahr, who is a bigger boy, he's bigger than me, and I'm not even going to try to guess his weight because that would be a dick on my part. But he's a bigger boy, and he went out and he won, I believe, the sealed Predator class. And as far as I'm concerned, it looked like he pretty well dominated that. I believe he won his heat races and the main. And he's a bigger guy. Just because you're a bigger guy doesn't mean you can't compete. It just means you've got to have your shit right. The more prepared you can be, the better you're going to be at it. It's Sunday morning. I'm here. I didn't even do my hair today. I'm not wearing my blacks. I just wanted to come down and get my scale numbers and make sure everything was right, so I can give them to you guys, because we had a great weekend. The last thing I'm going to do is wait till Wednesday to work on this thing. I want to know exactly what I've got. I want to go through every step so that I can record all that before I forget anything. Your memory is only going to keep all your information for so long. You're going to start forgetting little things, and by recording them, It's going to help you down the road. Maybe not next race, but maybe 5 races down the road, you can look back through your notes and go, okay, that's what I had there. I'm huge on the data. I'm huge on the physics. I'm huge on the dynamics. And like I said, all night when I got home, I was like, I can't wait to get the thing on scales because it performed so well. I wanted to see where we were at. And the one mistake that I think that I made heading into this weekend was I was expecting the cart to need around 55, 56, 57% cross. It took far less than that. And in fact, one of the things that I learned is you cannot drive a tight dirt cart. Once it's tight, you start killing your corner speed momentum. You have to slow the cart down to get that grip back in the front. A free cart, you can drive. It may be a little bit harder on exit to manipulate the cart, but you're going to save so much time entry to center. Now, it's just like anything else. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Like, I like cookies, but let's be honest, too many cookies is too many cookies. So by freeing it up too much, now all of a sudden you're too free and you're too free through the center. It's over rotating. You can't get back to the throttle, and it's going to be hard to drive. Where do I think that line is on cross? I don't know, because there's so many other adjustments that I can make that it seems to me to have to be down that low on cross. I've got something off in the back of the cart, or something off in the front, or something somewhere is causing the cart to want to be over freed up through crossweight. So I'm going to do some more research this week. I'm going to look at some more things, and I'm going to go back with a similar package in 2 weeks, but I'm going to make some changes to it to try to get the rotation into the cart and try to get it into the corner a little bit better. I don't want to rely on 45% crossweight to make me happy in the go-kart. I would like that stability. As far as I'm concerned, 50 is going to be my minimum. I don't want to drop below 50. If you go too low, now all of a sudden you got the thing teeter-tottering on the left front and the right rear, and you lose a lot of your stability. So ideally I'd like to be 52, 54, but I don't know that I can get the rear end of the cart or the front of the cart to cut the way I wanted to with a 55% cross. So there's going to have to be some give and take, but I guess we just got to make more laps to get there. That's pretty much all I've got today as far as what I've learned. But I told you guys I'm going to run my GoPros. So I had my GoPro on my head. I had my GoPro on just above my brake rotor. So I've got some really good videos. I'm hoping I got some good videos because it was just a full-blown throwdown this weekend in Moses Lake. I'm going to end the video with a whole bunch of video clips and a video of how the track looked in the very end. But again, huge thank you to Jeremy Anders and WVSO and all the staff at WVSO, Mike and his wife and everybody else that was down there. Huge thanks to Kevin Hare and I think Paul Dart, he said AEI, for the track prep. The track was phenomenal, and I absolutely cannot wait to go back. Huge shout out to Tyler, Showtime Showman over at Overnight Wraps. He had me a badass looking go-kart, and I did beat it up, Tyler. I'm sorry. We can clean it up. I took care of the stuff that you have to print. I got tons of the yellow. I can replace that. Huge shout out for everybody that helped me out, get me there, and helped us along the way while we were there. Photo credits as we go later on from Keith Marshall, Jerry Miller, Justin Burris, Elise Burris, and I think there's somebody else, but I'm missing them. But again, thank you to everybody that came up and talked to us during the race this last weekend. Thanks for everybody that lended a hand, and I absolutely cannot wait to go back in 2 weeks. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think if we can gain just a little tiny bit, like I said, this weekend I think we were competitive enough to win in possibly either class. The Pro Open was going to be a little bit harder to win, but I think we were definitely competitive enough to win the Stage 2 class. But if we can find just a little bit more, I think we might be looking at a trophy. So thank you again, everybody. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. I hope you guys enjoy the series on the go-kart. There are more to come. But like I said, here's the racing. Enjoy. I've seen a lot of people talking about looking at the racetrack and what condition the racetrack is in before you get going. I really don't know what I'm looking at here, but I did notice that it's got a lot of moisture in it. It is really cold, so I don't see a lot of that evaporating out of it. It's probably going to dry up a bit, but it's really, really well packed and wicked smooth. So having those things in mind, I'm pretty sure the slicks are going to work. I'm not going to have to use my dirt tires. But like I said, I'll keep you posted on how things go. Whew. I'm excited. It's cold, but I'm excited. This is the ending surface after all the racing was over. The people that prep this track at Moses Lake, WVSO is one of the main sponsors or helps put this thing on. Mike Knutson, all the staff at WVSO, but also Kevin here, Paul Dart, AEI, everybody that helped put this thing on together. I am astonished at how perfect this track surface was. I had a perception that this was going to be a bit rougher coming in and doing this kind of stuff, but this is the absolute most incredible surface prep, and it was not near bumpy like I thought it was going to be. A couple little bumps here and there, but what a phenomenal prep job on this racetrack, and I just want to give those guys a huge shout out. Beautiful facility. Thank you guys.